Hi guys, so my last video I covered non-marketers making marketing decisions and the impact of that on especially a small business. I want to follow that up while we are exploring communication. In a situation where you are outsourcing a marketing team, especially outsourcing any type of consultant, project management, anything like that. When one party is late, and I say one party because it's not always the client's fault, service providers can be late to calls as well. But when one party is late, what happens is we tend to rush into that call. It is the equivalent of when you are online, it's the equivalent of rushing into that boardroom, sitting down like breathless, panting, and saying, "I'm here, I've arrived, we can continue." That kind of entrance into a meeting is very distracting for everybody else in the meeting. It's also not setting you up for extracting and exchanging the maximum amount of value during that session time. So the first thing, and most people get this right, when you recognize that you're going to be late, to let the other party know, to let one of several other parties know and say, "Please, can you communicate this with me?" It could be an emergency situation, which is completely understandable. The second thing that happens, and here's where a lot of us start kind of going off the rails. We don't consider that, hey, we're going to be late to this meeting. If we're going to miss about 20% of the call, we should be sacrificing about 20% of the points we wanted to cover. Why? Because there are other people in this meeting, and other people have allocated their time in different ways. In some cultures, it is a huge sign of disrespect if you are constantly late. It's not all cultures, but for the cultures where it matters, it really matters. So when you're in this meeting, before you actually enter it, consider which of the points you are going to sacrifice and let the person know once it's your turn to speak when you've joined the session. Let that person know you have made the decision to sacrifice some of your talking points. However, you will communicate that in writing and you understand and respect that person will respond as they have the chance to do so. When we go into these situations where one party is late to a meeting, what can also happen is the tendency to squeeze in talking points at the end of the session, the last 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm guilty of this too. I also sometimes forget and I just want to cover all of the checkbox items. But it's not healthy to do that because some of these talking points are a lot more important. And they can't just be squeezed in, and have 60 seconds to discuss them. What also happens is, because as you're talking in a session, your audience might have what we call light bulb moments. So these light bulb moments inspire other talking points, and the responsible thing to do is actually note them down and judge them, to judge whether or not they're appropriate to raise in response to what the person has said, or to reflect on them a little bit more and then communicate at a later time or in a different channel. Because time like this is precious. And in a meeting, we can't, play these conversations out at twice the speed. So we're living in real time. We don't have that luxury of speeding things up. And some people will take longer to get a point across and others won't. So avoid using these terms, one last thing or quick question. In that scenario, the reason I encourage this is your quick question as the client may actually require that your consultant or your outsourced specialist needs to go through some historical data, apply contextual awareness, go back and draw on multiple sources of information to provide you an answer that both you and the consultant can have confidence in. And it's a quick question from your side, but the answer may not be quick. So it's one of those things where you've also got to recognize that just because you ask the question in that forum does not necessarily entitle you to an answer in that forum. So the overall lesson here is really to respect your time and respect other people's time. And let's try and find a way to mitigate when one party is late to a meeting. I'm really interested to know how you manage this. I've seen a few different techniques and I'd like to know how you guys are managing this, and I can help you improve Like I said, this is as much a reminder to myself to use my techniques and pull techniques out from the toolbox for managing time appropriately. And we got to constantly remind ourselves to remember how to do it right. So let me know what you're doing, and I'll share some of my tips with you if you're connecting with me. So let's hope this helped you. I'm excited to hear what you guys are doing.